What does really matter when you want to transform your body? Is it training? Is it cardio? Is it diet? Is it maybe your metabolism? Is it your hormones? Is it your cortisol? What I'm going to do in this episode right now is I'm going to give you the no fluff, straightforward, 100% proven blueprint and answer if you want to successfully transform your body and what you need to know about so you can dedicate your energy to the things that actually move the needle, that actually make a difference, and stop wasting your time with the things that don't do anything. Why I'm doing this episode right now, because I had a conversation with one of my clients, one of my members inside the Fit High Performer that just got started. And he was wondering why, despite in the past, he was rowing up to 8 times a week, like in the past, like national competitive level, not today anymore, but in his past, up to 8 times on a national competitive level, and was wondering, even though like he was fit and he was like doing okay, he still had a belly carrying around, not a massive one, but still like for the activity that he was doing, just like nowhere where it should be. So he was exercising a lot, but didn't really look like it. And it's very common. It happens often. You see that also with bikers, like bicycle, some runners sometimes, or some people that are like, seem to be like quite active seemingly. But when you're like being honest, like they don't really look like it. And to answer the question right away, what does really make a difference if you not only want to say, like sweat a little bit and feel a little bit better and yeah, like everybody can do that. It's not difficult. But to have a real before and after transformation where you can really say, hey, before I had a belly hanging over my belt, when I looked down on myself, there was something around, and now it's gone. What does really matter? I'll give you the simple proven formula and explain a little bit further. Your diet or your nutrition, what you eat on a daily basis, decides your body fat percentage and your weight. How you train will decide how you will look at that body fat percentage and weight. So very simply put there, nutrition is the main driver, the most important factor when it comes to reducing body fat. You can't exercise your way out of a belly. It simply doesn't work. Trust me, I've tried it a lot in the past. Trust me, I've worked with hundreds of men who tried that over and over and over again and who failed. It's just not going to work. You maybe heard the phrase, you can't outrun a bad diet. Well, this has some truth to it. Like obviously it needs a little bit more context, a little bit nuance, but it's true. If you're not getting a grip on what you're eating 3 times a day, 2 to 3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day, whichever it is, you will never, ever get in great shape. It's simply not possible. And doing more and more and more exercise is also not the solution, because in the end, you can only do exercise to a certain degree. You're not going to be like able to like dedicate, I don't know, like 10 hours a week to working out. If you can, awesome. Most people can probably not do that. But all of us eat 2 to 3 times a day. So you're already doing the action. You just have to do it the right way. You have to optimize it. You have to move, obviously, like increase your protein intake. You want to have more fiber, so you're naturally more satiated. Want to have more whole foods. And you should usually always go the way of like eating more of the right things instead of cutting out of, like having an approach of cutting out foods. That's also like a downward spiral. You will build up craving and it's just not going to work for you in the long run. So eat more of the things that you probably right now are not eating enough for, because the reason why you're in this situation today where your belly is hanging over your belt is because you didn't eat enough of the things that you should eat. Like I said, like protein, like fiber, like whole foods, because this is literally the most important pillar when it comes to optimizing your diet when you want to get in great shape. And again, exercise is important. I'm not saying it's not important or so, but it's just a fraction of the results. You should still, if your goal is to reduce body fat, lose weight, you still should exercise. And in particularly, if you can only do one type of exercise, it should be resistance training. Because let's say you're optimizing your food intake. Let's say you're optimizing your diet, quote unquote. By the way, diet has a very bad reputation, the word itself, but it's originally coming from the Greek origin, which from dieta, which actually means way of living. And how you're eating is actually a way of living. So it's very important that we're not stigmatizing the word diet just because you associate it with eating half the amounts that you usually do, crash dieting or whatever diet that comes to your mind. So optimizing that. And then when it comes back to training, you should do resistance training. If you can only bet your money in one place, on one color, it should be resistance training, because you've had it maybe in the past before. You tried to lose some weight. You maybe like tweaked your diet a little bit around, and you started running more and more, you started losing weight and people started noticing it. But at some point they actually said, like, told you stuff such as like, oh, are you okay? You like, you kind of look sick. You lost the weight, but like kind of like when you look at your body, you're like, I mean, I have less weight, but I'm not really looking like fit and athletic. I just look like soft and skinny somehow. That's what we refer as skinny fat. Yes, you're losing weight, but if you're not resistance training, if you're not telling your body, if you're not signaling your body, hey, the muscle that I have on my body is important, by stimulating it, by lifting weights or by doing body weight exercises, any form of resistance training, your body will get rid of it. Your body will get rid of the energy source. And muscle is also an energy source next to body fat. So resistance training, you don't need to live in the gym. You don't need to become Arnold Schwarzenegger. 2 times a week is everything that you can need. Ideally 3 times, but 2 times is more than enough. I have my members actually doing like 2 times 35 minutes a week, which I think is like absolutely realistic, even if you have a packed schedule, because with all honesty, if you can't find 2 times a week for 35, 40 minutes, you don't have a time issue, you have a priority issue. It's like, you maybe think like, oh, this is easy for you to say. Yeah, but the same thing also say all my members that go through the program. They had the same bullshit excuse beforehand, like, oh, I don't have the time. It's too difficult. I can make it work. Yeah, because you're lacking the system, because you don't know what to focus your time on. Because if you know where to focus your time on, where do you have to put your attention? On the 20% that give you 80% of the results, you will feel the progress. You will feel the results. And what that does, it will automatically trigger motivation. You have more energy. You become more productive. You manage your time overall better as a nice side effect. And all of a sudden, even though you're quote unquote spending time, you're getting more back out of it because you're more efficient. You have more energy. You get more stuff done. And the crazy thing is that we have actually studies that have been proven in the British Medical Journal. No, in the Medical Journal of, I always forget, I always say it wrong. The Medical Journal, New England Medical Journal, I think it is. You can look up these studies where they actually have been able to prove that for every hour you exercise, for every hour you work out, you will get back 3.6 hours in an extended life. So that means you're not spending time. You're returning it with a 260% ROI. Any smart investor, anybody that makes a little bit of money will understand this is pretty wild. Like, there's not much other that gives you such a wild return of investment. And that's why also like this generally should like fit into a framework, into a lifestyle, into an agenda of anybody, because it may seem like an initial expense, but it's actually like a very, very smart investment. And 2 times 35 per week is a very, very small price to pay for increased vitality, longevity, energy, looking better, feeling more confident, enhancing your professional presence, and so many more things. So just get your workout in. Let's put it that. And just to put that quickly on a note to like understand, if I would have to put percentages, or if people understand, like I always get asked like, oh, what is the most important thing again? Is it diet? Is it training? Is it sleep, hormones? Just to give you the bullet list quickly, it's not your metabolism. Your metabolism has not slowed down. If your metabolism actually has slowed down, it's not because you age, it's because you lose muscle over time. And that's why you should do resistance training. Your cortisol is also not keeping you from losing weight, because if you do the fundamental things with your diet, with your nutrition, with your sleep, your cortisol will improve. But it's not because your cortisol will improve because you do the other things, and it will naturally also like improve because of that. Because so many men also think like, oh, my cortisol is so high, that's why my belly sticks around. No, you're just like not doing the things that you should do. And the cortisol goes up because of that. It's not because of that, it's just a side effect. What we really also like have to understand to put everything in a nutshell. Yes, if you want to put it simply, like training versus diet, nutrition makes 80% of your results when it comes to fat loss, and training around 20, 15 maybe. But it's not as easy to answer it like that, like this, like black and white approach, because when we look, we can look at this in terms of like a pyramid. So when you look at a pyramid, like always, like the bottom is the most important thing, right? And the higher you go up in a pyramid, in a hierarchy, the less important it becomes, right? So you maybe also know that from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So at the bottom is the most important thing, and at the top is self-fulfillment, which is like theoretically for survival the least important thing. So when we have like the fat loss or body transformation pyramid, at the bottom you will have nutrition, you'll have resistance training, and you will have sleep and recovery. Because if you're not sleeping and recovering properly, you will hinder fat loss, first of all. And second of all, the weight that you're losing, even if you optimize your diet and you're training, even if you're training. So like, you stay with me. This is like really mind-blowing data right now. So they did this study where they put people on two different groups. They had the same diet, they had the same training protocol. The only difference was that one group was able to sleep 8 hours a night, while the other group was getting consciously sleep deprived to only 5 hours a night. What they found out by the end of the trial, of a 12-week trial, both groups lost the same amount of weight, after 12 weeks, both groups. The big difference was the group that was sleep deprived lost 50% of their weight from muscle mass. 50%. So getting good sleep is not on a magnitude of like how many grams of carbs you're eating, or like how much cardio you're doing, which is like more up in the pyramid. It's on the fundamental, like, are you even exercising? So you can even resistance train, do the right workouts, do the right diet, but if you're sleep deprived, you lose up to 50% of your weight from muscle mass. And that's how you realistically drop your metabolism, because muscle tissue is the most metabolically active tissue that you have in your body. And when that goes down, obviously your metabolic rate goes down, because the more muscle you have, the higher your quote unquote metabolism is. But just to like put a little bit of nuance on, it's not a good strategy to say like, let me build more muscle so my metabolism increases so I can burn more fat. And that's not how it works. It's like a very inefficient process, because yes, every gram of muscle that you build will add a little bit to that, but it's not a reliable strategy to quote unquote burn calories. It helps a little bit, but the main driver always has to be nutrition, eating with purpose. So to put that into an actionable step, a simple framework that you can follow that I'm going to give you here right now is ideally have 3 meals a day. Intermittent fasting or skipping breakfast is not a great idea, because if you're tapping into yourself right now, if you're skipping breakfast, you're most likely building up cravings or craving sweets or anything else. Like you just crave food around dinner and after dinner, which is not how it should be, because then you're eating too close to bedtime, you wreck up your sleep. But that should be a topic for another episode. Eating breakfast, especially a high protein breakfast, will have benefits when it comes to fat loss, because if you're giving your body the fuel that it needs earlier in the day, it won't crave it later in the day, when you should actually like get into a mode where you're relaxing, recovering, preparing for sleep, and not thinking about like, oh, what is in the kitchen shelf, or can I eat the leftovers from the kids? You've been there. I know that. We've all been there. So having breakfast, just like super simple, like have some low-fat Greek yogurt and some fruits, and like it's not a big breakfast. It's like you can get it in every gas station. It's simple. Just do that. And then make sure just like every main meal that you're having has a significant amount of protein source, usually like your fist size is a good indicator, and fill up your plate with fibrous foods, whole foods, lots of vegetables, whole grains, ideally. But again, that's a topic for another episode. So to put this to bed, yes, nutrition matters most theoretically, not theoretically, practically on paper, because if you're not fixing your diet, you're not going to get in shape, you're not going to drop your belly fat, and you're never going to outrun the belly. Exercise is important, but it needs to be the right type of exercise. And like I said, resistance training. And lastly, even if you do these 2 things before perfectly, but you're sleep deprived and you're not optimizing your sleep quality, you'll still lose muscle. And that's the worst thing that you can do, because you naturally anyway lose muscle after 30 years, sarcopenia, what we call the natural loss of muscle, 1% of muscle mass per year. And now calculate that if that starts at 30 and you're now 45. That's a significant amount of muscle. And that's why your metabolism, quote unquote, goes down. So you need to resistance train. There's no other way around it. Can be body weight, can be outdoor, can be in the gym, whatever floats your boat, doesn't matter. You just have to put your whole body under tension. Doing push-ups and sit-ups is just like 5% of your whole body. You need to train your legs, you need to train your upper body, everything. Because if you're not doing that, it will slowly go away. Optimize your sleep, get your diet fixed, and resistance train.